Well, hello and welcome to the e-commerce podcast with me, your host, Matt Edmondson. Now, this is a show all about helping you deliver e-commerce wow. And today is a founders episode. This is where I get to talk to someone who is actually running their own e-commerce business. And I'm really excited to have my conversation with Amy today. We had a great pre-call. Really excited. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. If you don't know, I've been in e-commerce since 2002. Today, I partner with e-commerce brands all over the world to help them grow, scale, and exit. And if you'd like to know more about how that works, then head over to the website ecommercepodcast.net. It's all on there, where incidentally, you can also sign up, of course, to the wonderful newsletter that we have, where everything comes to your inbox. The site, I want to say the show notes. It's not the show notes because we really expand on them and deliver some great value in there. So if you've not signed up to the email, you should really get on that, the newsletter. So go check that out, ecommercepodcast.net. Enough of all that now. You know that if you're a regular to the show. And if you're not, by the way, if you're new, a really warm welcome to you. Where are my manners? It's great that you're here. Let's talk about today's guest, Amy. Amy, all the way from Austin, Texas, with Ms. Pac-Man behind her, if you're watching on the video.
Say hi. She's listening in today. You might want to get into the e-commerce game. So she's,
Yeah, she's there. She's there, which is great.
Yeah.
I mistakenly said, that's awesome, you have Pac-Man behind you, but it's not Pac-Man. It's Ms. Pac-Man, which is very, very important.
That's right.
I just love the fact you've got an arcade game behind you. I just think that I'm just like, I am totally getting one into I'm in what I call my man cave now, and I should really go.
You need one. Yeah, you need one. It's old school connection. It's just so good. It's a different feeling. Go get one.
It is a very different. You know what? Can I just tell a quick? I appreciate this is not the conversation of the podcast, but a quick short story.
Yes.
My daughter, who has just turned 18, like last week. A couple of years ago, we went on a trip, her and I. We went over to the States, and she wanted to do the Pacific Coast Highway. We rented a car and we drove the Pacific Coast Highway along the coast of California, and we drove up from south of LA up to San Francisco, and it was beautiful. And
you passed my alma mater.
Sorry,
Pepperdine. You passed my alma mater.
Oh, well,
beautiful pass you went through.
There we go. There we go. It was beautiful, and when we got to San Francisco, there was this sort of place down on what I'd call the docks, down the I think you call them the pier, don't you? Down at the pier, there was this sort of place where there was old arcade machines, and you went in, and it was this massive place and you walked in, and there was like pinball machines from the 1950s, and I'm like, Zoe, we have got to spend a little bit of time here, and lo and behold, in that place they found the one game that I was good at when I was a youngster.
What was it?
It was the Star Wars game, the Atari Star Wars game.
Oh, Atari, yes.
And I when I was a kid, I absolutely loved it. So I got very excited, and it's the one computer game or arcade game that I can actually beat my kids at.
I can't bowl, but Capcom bowling was my jam. It's the one with the bowling ball in the middle, and you just do it. I do it until I'd like pull my muscle between these fingers. Well, what did Zoe think? Did she kind of get it? I mean, it's a different.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the graphics were very, very different to what she's used to. But I think she was just loving the fact that Dad was just very excited and actually completed the game on his first go. Still got the muscle memory, like 50
got
years.
It. Still got it.
What a thing to still have. What a thing to have. Anyway, back to e-commerce. The real reason people have tuned in, other than to reminisce about arcade machines. Amy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about BigBeeLittleBee.
I have a daughter as well. Her name is Marlo, and BigBeeLittleBee. I'm the Big B. She's the Little B. That's her brand name. She's 10. She's not 18. But together we invent, develop, manufacture, and retail our own creations. Several of them invented by me, one of them invented by her, and they're all eco-friendly products, but they make your daily routines easier. For example, silicone food storage containers that, historically silicone food storage can be a little difficult to clean, not super user-friendly. And we designed an approach that makes it easier for you than even like a regular bag. And she invented the silicone product that keeps your marker caps contained, grips your marker caps. So you just remove a marker and not remove the cap so they can't get lost. So everything is eco-friendly, eco-conscious, but mostly to do with making your life easier on a daily basis. So that's what we do. We've been doing it.
That's amazing.
I think we're going on 10 years now.
Well, if she's 10, sure.
Yeah, well, so 9. So 9, because the first product I brought to market was for her when she was a baby. We don't sell it anymore, but it was made for her, and that was the beginning. So
that's incredible. I love this idea of doing something with your daughter. I mean, that's quite an extraordinary thing. When our kids were growing up, my daughter's my youngest child. We've got 3. My eldest is, 23, 24. You stop counting after a while, Amy. I'm not
adult.
He's an adult. But when they were growing up, we never gave them pocket money or an allowance, as you'd call it on your side of the pond. But I did say to them, if they had a business idea, I would invest in it. And so my son, when he was 10, set up a chicken business. He wanted to buy chickens and he would go and sell the eggs and all that sort of stuff. And so,
and he did it?
Yeah.
He did it?
I mean, I invested in it, so I paid for it to sort of start. But yeah, he went and started this chicken business, which was amazing. And
my nephew's in the chicken business.
Well, it's a good business to be
in. San Francisco. He's in the chicken business. He sells his eggs. He has a huge margin. Huge. And he's just a really cute kid with a great personality. And he's a phenomenal salesman. And his eggs are, I can't call him overpriced because, they're worth that, the way he cares for them. So all about that chicken business. Start him young, yes.
Start him young, which is what you're doing with your daughter. And how does she respond to the idea of being involved in e-commerce?
She's in love with it. So I saw in her from an extremely young age what I think my parents saw in me. Like all of her toys that she'd get never in her mind were the toys they were on the box. Like to her, get her an alphabet, set, she's making soup. You know what I mean? Like everything she was using, everything she could get her hands on, she did something else with it always. And she really loved being in her playroom with her stuff. And you could always see everything going on behind the eyes, even just as a baby. And I really love to encourage that in children. I actually used to be a special education teacher. And I just really love to encourage the creativity and the problem solving and finding other ways into problems. So I was I fed all of that. A lot of times, kids love things that would typically be trash, pieces of styrofoam that came in boxes. She's always had it all. I've never said no. I joke about it. I laugh like, please, enough. Like right now, huge constructions out of cardboard. And I've never said no to that because I feel like you get that part of the brain so open once. So to keep it open. And she's always making stuff. And so when it came, she was 6.5 and she had the idea for the marker parker. The product on the market doesn't resemble it at all. You see the process. It's really fun. But when she created that prototype, she'd solved the problem for losing her marker caps. And I was like, do you want to make a product together or see if it can turn into a product really? And she wanted to, and together we did it. And she knows so much about product development and e-commerce now, because once you're done with the product development process, it's like, well, you're not done now. Now is when the real work begins. You got. So she's fascinated by it. And just last night, she makes toys now just for herself. She's a toy maker. But just last night we were working on, we 3D printed a prototype for a new size of the soft shell, one of the silicone food storage containers. And she looked at the top of it and she's just like, the pattern looks too cramped in one spot. And she's like, and I don't like that it doesn't have like the slight slope on the top silicone panel. And I'm listening and I'm like, okay, I agree with the scattering of the, how it's cramped in one spot in the design, but why with the slope? Why do we need it? We have the fit. And she's like, well, the other ones, I just don't think it fits like with the line of the other products. They all have a slight slope. So she's like, I don't think it has to be, because this one was completely flat. She's like, I don't think it has to be completely flat, but I do think it needs to have that same feel as the others. And I was like, ooh.
So this is a 10-year-old young girl spitting.
Yes. So, and she's right. She's so right on that. But the way she approached it, she wasn't just, at first she was like, oh, it's so cool. And then immediately you see her start to study it. And it's been phenomenal. It's so rewarding. It's so rewarding to watch her develop these skills and mostly have the confidence to say it. Have the confidence to show it, because I respect her as an inventor and like, just like every other inventor, and product developer grown up. It's the same.
Phenomenal.
So it's amazing.
No doubt. I mean, there's a company here in the UK, I'll give them a little shout out, called 7 Yays, who make birthday week advent calendars. It's quite an extraordinary idea. I think it's a really great idea, which they've developed and done well with. All came because their daughter one day came back from school and said, Dad, I've got an idea. And Dad was like, I like that idea. Let's see if there's any mileage in it. And they've got a full-fledged e-com business as a result of, Dad
I have to look it up.
daughter.
Do you say like yay? Like yay?
Yeah, the number 7, YAYS, 7
Yeah,
Yays.
7 Yays. Oh my gosh. The play on days, I love it all. Yay. Like, I love it all.
Yeah, it's really clever what they've done. And I really like those guys. A big shout out to Andrew and Charlotte, if they're listening, who head up 7 Yays. But again, this idea of getting kids involved in the business and showing them from an early age, I think is quite a remarkable thing. And why not? I mean, it's fascinating that you sit there and say, we just 3D printed because you can do that now. It's not like
you can do it now.
You can prototype super easy. I'm just going to 3D print that and see what it comes out. I don't like it. Well, let's 3D print another one and see what that comes out like. Yeah. I think the technology that we have access to now, in some respects, it's never been easier, but fundamentally, the principle still stays the same. When I was a kid, my dad encouraged me to run a tuck shop at school, where you would sell sweets and candy to the kids. And so I did. I mean, we didn't have 3D printers back then, but I could go and buy sweets from one shop cheaply and sell them slightly more expensive and you learn that trade and you learn the value of money. But the thing that I love about what you've done, you've tapped into the creativity, actually, and imagination of a 10-year-old girl, because I think that's easily lost, and it's quite a remarkable thing.
I think also one of the important things is also showing her the bad parts of or the very challenging parts, or when something goes wrong. I mean, certainly in the product development process, there are a whole different approaches. Like I taught her that we stay married to the problem that we're solving. We don't stay married to the approach that we have, which is why it looks different than her first prototype. But also I think it's important to continue that development of problem solving, to keep that part open, to always be solving problems, because I don't want to call it problems really, but e-commerce is like every day you're handed a challenge. We're talking today on a day that we learned about new tariffs yesterday afternoon, and it will have an impact, and we will have to make a shift. And I don't keep those things from her. I don't keep that from her either. I said, these are the things, and maybe these are some of the levers we can pull. But even when it's not something she's really learned about, I always bring her into that conversation, because one day she will surprise me, like she did with her, design suggestions in a way that I didn't think about. One day she will enter in that conversation and say something exactly like that design pointing out. Like, what about this lever? What about, so we talk about the challenges just as much as we talk about the wins. As it's
which is great, because they learn resilience, right? And they learn that the world is not all sunshine and rainbows.
Yes.
And it's not all Carly Simon or whoever it is that's on the Netflix or the kids. I'm just talking out of time.
Carly Simon.
I am Carly. That's the one. Carly Simon was the 70s singer.
was like, I don't think my daughter's really into Carly Simon, but I should introduce her to.
Yeah. You're so vain, I think, is the.
Yes.
You know what, Amy? The sad thing is, there's people listening to the podcast now going, "Who's Carly Simon?"
Who's Carly? Well, they look her up and they'll learn something amazing. So there's learning from this.
Yeah, I think
that's
true. That's true. So this is great. So why did you get into e-commerce? What kickstarted that journey for you? I mean, was it just the fact you needed something for your daughter and you thought, well, I'll make it and sell it online, or was there something more to it?
Yeah, I made it for her because it was a specialized baby towel where oftentimes you dry a baby on a counter, you're dealing with it. And I would pile up towels. So I made a cushioned baby bath towel with wings that just made the process a lot easier. I don't sell it anymore because the manufacturing cost was so high. I didn't know about over-engineering at the time. I'm not trained in any of this. I don't have I have a degree in education. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know, so we don't sell it anymore. But when I made it, it was like, well, this is probably a good product. I should give it a shot. Maybe I'll test it out with some people in the neighborhood, put it on a Facebook group, tried it out, all that, and then made a bunch and put it on Amazon. And I was like, well, that's a pretty good way to test a product. Put it on Amazon, see if people will part with their money for it. And they did. And it was hard. The problem with that product too was also, as an inventor, you're always having to explain to people what it is. It's not like, here's a mouse. Here's why my mouse is better. Yeah. It's like, here's my invention. Let me explain to you the problem. Let me tell you how our approach to it. Let me tell you how it's going to, so it was it was a complicated product like that. But I was just like, let's try. I've never had like a fear of failing in that way. I'm just like, so maybe people won't like it and that's fine. But that's how it all began.
Fascinating.
And then the next product was also made for Marlo, my daughter. So.
And thus the journey began.
Yep. And it was like something like every year and a half or so, every 2 years, we put out a new product, and I'm also very quick to get rid of products if it's not working for the catalog, meaning like you're gone. Like there was a product called Beekeepers, which is build your own divided plate, but it was me trying to solve the food storage problem going back, before the soft shell line, the silicone line. And I was just like, this just isn't the way. It's not taking. I think it's not taking for a reason. This isn't the way. So even though I'd invested in the tooling and all that, I was like, this isn't the way. This isn't the one. Keep going, keep trying. And I sat with the problem for years. I'd say soft shell was the longest development timeline that we've had for any of the products, because getting to the solution and then making it excellent. So the solution to the problem and then the technical elements of it. I'm still perfecting it. Every version, it's like imperceptible to the eye, but it's different. It's different every time. The lock is a fraction of a millimeter, longer. And so, yeah. And I just move on. It's the resilience, and I'm fine with changing my mind. And I feel like I do that constantly.
It feels like, whilst in one sense there's a personal aspect to this story because your daughter's involved, normally when people are personally attached to something, when there's that emotional buy-in, it's very hard to let things go. But it sounds like you sort of found the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and I think one of the ways to get around that is to go, it never stops being part of the journey. Right? You're letting it go in the way of you're not selling them anymore. You're not manufacturing them anymore, but it doesn't stop that it got you to the next place, right? So those beekeepers that aren't sold anymore, they were a necessary stepping stone to the soft shell line, which is thankfully extremely successful. But if I hadn't really identified, that's not the way, and that's not what's resonating with people, and here's what's wrong with it, I don't think I would have come to the soft shell. Yeah. So the personal attachment, just like so many things that we have, let that memory and that importance in the journey be the thing you hold on to, not keep banging your head against a wall.
Yeah.
Why isn't it selling? Why isn't it this? I know it can be this and it's not. You know what I mean? Like, let it be where it belongs in the past. And that helps me because it didn't go away.
Well, I think it's a beautiful way of thinking about it, you know, and reframing it. It's like, well, this is a stepping stone on the journey. This is something that we've got to do, but it is part of the journey. At some point we leave that part. And that's actually quite a good way of reframing it, I think, because I do see a lot of people get emotionally attached to things and they just can't let it go.
They can't let it go. I talk to a lot of my friends deal with that. Like I have a lot of friends who are in similar businesses, you know, in the same kind of place in the journey. I see them struggle with it. But also, I mean, obviously, you probably tell, my daughter is my why. And so when I make choices and I always want to model the things that I want her to, you know, I want her to see, you know, and hopefully she can adopt and just acceptance of certain things, you know, being really looking at it, looking at the truth of a situation and going, okay, well, I've taken this to the end of the line with this. Let's shift, let's move on, let's put it where it belongs, you know, and doing it in a healthy way is really important for me. And we've taken a lot of hits in this business. We've had a lot of low points. And I feel like what carried me and sometimes is, no, I want to model resilience. The data is telling me things are working. It doesn't feel like it. And it feels like the luck isn't coming through, but the data is telling me it's working. So I can't stop because that's not the thing I want to model. It's not the thing that will feel good for me. And so those are the kind of things that keep me going. So it's really so much about resilience and as much as, you know, the word's overused, pivoting in a million different ways.
Well, yeah, it is. I think that resilience is not necessarily trying to flog a dead horse to you know, for a good old English expression.
Yeah.
Resilience, like you say, is learning what's working now and figuring out what's going to work tomorrow and being able to adapt from one to the other without any loss of enthusiasm or momentum, to quote Churchill. It's not quite Churchill's quote, but it's
stopping is not quitting. Do you know what I mean? Stopping something doesn't mean you're quitting something.
Yeah, it just means it's just changed. It's just moved. And I think this is quite an important, I suppose if I look back over my e-com career, it's one of those things where actually I've been okay, a bit like yourself, Amy, to go, actually, that's not working. I need to stop that now, you know, and just bring that back round to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
What's been your biggest learning, do you think, in e-commerce?
Feel the feelings, absorb the information, whatever it is, right? Like whatever it is, just, you know, something happened, absorb it. You know, I hate to say like the age old, like learn from it, you know, but take what you can, feel the emotion. Sometimes the hit is hard, you know, like obviously, you know, with the tariff thing, not to harp on it, but like with the tariff thing. Okay, listen, feel what you're going to feel. If you want to feel something, feel it. And then as quickly as you can, deal with it, you know, deal with it. Go, okay, now, you know, now we have this information and move. But what was the original question? Sorry, you asked.
What's been your biggest learning in e-commerce?
Learning, yeah. So, okay, so I'm still on the train. Sometimes it goes. But I feel like getting there faster. That's been the learning. And I think, I do think that doesn't necessarily come from discipline. I think it comes through practice. Like knowing it's not the end of the world. No, and I have not seen a situation that's come like from the outside that really is like, that's the thing. It's just like, these are factors, knowing, okay, this one's going to hurt, this one's going to hurt, deal with it, move on. And I think it just takes practice. So if you're at the beginning of the journey, just remembering, okay, this is going to be tougher to get from, you know, here to here right now, but I'll almost learn. It's just a muscle to be developed, and just know if you're in the beginning of the journey, just know you'll get there. So try to get there quicker. And if you've been along the journey for a while and you're still struggling with it, just remember you dealt with it. You've done this a million times before. If you're years into your journey, you have dealt with problems like whatever you're struggling with today. You've dealt with something similar before.
Yeah.
Get there faster.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Hey, listen, if you're listening to the show wherever you are in the world and you would like to hang with fellow e-com founders like Amy, then why not think about joining the e-commerce cohort? The e-commerce cohort are mastermind groups that meet around the world. There's one in Australia and New Zealand, there's one in the UK, and there is one starting fairly soon in the US. They are online groups, so you don't have to travel, and they're free to join. You just get to meet e-commerce founders and get to chat about what's going on in e-commerce, network with fellow e-commercers, shoot the breeze, and figure out how to run your e-com business better. If you want to know more about e-commerce cohort, check out the e-commerce podcast website. There's a whole bunch of information on there. I'm in there, so come say how's it. It'd be great to meet you in the e-commerce cohorts. More information at ecommercepodcast.net. Amy, listen, e-commerce is this big giant of stuff that you've got to think about, right? Yes. And the less people, well, in some respects, I've got quite a lot of people in my e-com business. I still have to think about all the stuff. I just don't have to think about the detail necessarily. What's been, I suppose, from an e-commerce point of view, the hardest thing for you to wrap your head around that is kind of taking you a bit of time to learn, but has actually had quite a big impact on your business, whether, I don't know, email marketing, Facebook ads or whatever? I'm just kind of curious.
It's a tough one because there's so much.
All of it.
There really is. It just depends on the day. But I feel like, okay, some of the big ones, let's just talk about one of them. One of them is data for me. It's very, very, very hard. And I had to find a way to make it work for me. So my spreadsheets might look so childish to somebody, but they work for me. I had to learn how to work with the data. There's no getting around that, you know? And data, not just like, I'm not talking about like sales data, performance data of organic posts, right? Shifting to looking at some parts of the data more than others, like this week alone. I'm like, no, I got to focus on the meta ads. I got to focus on my cost to acquire the customer right now. Because I got to work on every penny, every bit now, especially with the news, like I got to work on it. The ROAS is so nice to look at, right? I'm like, oh, okay, I'm over this amount. No, I really have to look at the cost right now. Without the data, I can't do that, you know? And okay, so what are the social posts that are taking off? Okay, looks like microwave, like we talked about. Microwave. We tried to talk about lost lids. That didn't hit. That's all data too. And I think for me, that's one of the ones I avoided. I avoided it for so long because I didn't feel I had the natural skill set. And I don't. It's spreadsheets. It's really very difficult. But for me, I had to. And just finally coming to terms with there's nobody coming in to save me with that. Nobody's coming in from the outside because I have to be the one to see it all, no matter how many people are helping. Like, but I have somebody on meta ads, you know, but I have to understand it in order to manage it. I have to understand it. And so I'm not going to use the term dumb it down because it's not, it's just a different way in. So I had to find a different way in on the data. And the other one is social media because what's the word? It's not trends. But the way you work with, let's say years ago, it was influencers. Now, like my focus is going to be on more the affiliate program and it is different, you know? So looking right now, how to manage a program like that. But yeah, those are probably the big ones, like, cause marketing in general. And right now, you know, I'm talking about marketing, advertising, stuff like that. But they're a constant process. They're a constant process. And, but yeah, I could literally sit here for like 3 hours and answer this question, unfortunately.
Well, it's a really interesting question from my point of view, because when people enter e-commerce, there's you get into it and you kind of go, there is so much that I didn't know that I don't know, if that makes sense. There's a whole ecosystem of stuff.
World. Yeah.
And knowing what to work on for my business, I think, is half the problem. So I think there's a temptation when you're starting out in e-commerce to try and do everything. I've got to run Facebook ads. I've got to run Google ads. I've got to do the social media. I've got to do product development. I've got to do branding. I've got to do optimization. I need to get into SEO. So I've got to write blogs. Do I need to do a YouTube channel? Where's the podcast? Do you know what I mean? There's just
Yes.
You look at it and you kind of go, oh, and then there's email marketing. I've got to build my email list. And you go, holy cow, there's just so much to do. Out of your own journey, what's been the thing?
Well, if I may, I have a question. So when you were about, let's say, I wouldn't say the number of years into the business that I am, but kind of in the phase that I am, where it's like we were at a certain point and now we're really growing, fortunately, very fast. What, if you remember, what were some of your biggest challenges at that point in the business?
The biggest challenge, I think, it took me a while to realize it, right? So it's not like I understood this at the time. It's this thing that I understood looking back and tried to summarize everything that went on. At one point in my e-commerce journey, our business nearly went bankrupt because of a number of reasons, but the main one being that we were turning over around £6 million at the time. So what's that, about $7 or $8 million. So we weren't small, but we weren't massive. And the supplier said to us, sent me a letter actually saying that we're going to change our pricing policy to a more you buy, the more you pay policy. And because we were one of their biggest customers, our prices went up by 30% overnight. And our business halved within inside of a couple of weeks. And it was really fascinating. You know, I call it my £38 million lesson, for want of a better expression, because I think that's how much we lost in sales. And so you've got to learn from that, you know.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, there's definitely some lessons to learn there. And what I realized was, Amy, that there are 7 key areas of e-com, right? You've got product, you've got branding, you've got your tech stack, you've got marketing, you've got optimization, you've got the customer experience, and then you've got this whole growth aspect, these sort of 7 areas that you look at. And I realized that as a company, we were good in one area, possibly 2. We were average in 3 of them, and we were not great in 2 of them. So the analogy that I use is we were a bit like the guy that goes to the gym and just lifts, just does exercise to build his biceps, nothing else. So he's got massive biceps, but it all looks out of proportion to the rest of his body. And if I look back, I think in that phase, and we were growing massively rapidly at the time as well, I would say because we just focused in on what we thought moved the needle for us there and then, we neglected other areas. Whereas what I should have done was, as things were growing and as we had the resources, invest in those areas to make sure that the whole business grew at the right pace, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so that would be my answer.
Was SEO at the bottom? Were the things that gave you immediate returns like the things you focused on most, and the things that were longer term returns fell? Or
yes, yeah, and we tended to, like everybody, you focus on things that you can measure, right? Yeah. So in fact, I'm writing my latest blog post, which I'm writing at the moment, is about measuring things you can't measure, like how effective you are at storytelling, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas you can measure, if I ran this ad, then I get this return, right? And you focused in because that's what everybody told you to do, right?
Yeah.
You focus in on those things which you can measure, and what gets measured gets managed. And we hear these things all the time, and they're useful things to think about. But I think in a world which is obsessed with data in many ways, it can be problematic, and you get the analysis paralysis because there's so much data you don't actually know what to do with it.
Right.
But yes, we would focus in on those things, like we were hot on Google Ads, we were hot on Facebook. We could measure those, and you could crank those up.
Yep.
And what that did was it gave you an instant feedback loop. And so you knew you were growing today because of what you did yesterday.
Yeah.
And so all the other stuff, which was a bit more, like you would say, medium term, bit more long term, bit more stuff that you can't measure, that just went out the window.
Yeah, I bet. I've done it too. And I'm starting to, it's interesting you bring it up now, because it's one of the things that I'm like, this is my like Q2, like, because we had talked in the pre-call, like we've changed off our fulfillment. We're not doing anymore. I'm not managing it all. It's in a different state. It's fantastic, which frees up me not being involved in that. It means I can allocate my time a little bit more wisely for the place in the business we are. And that time is really going to getting a big picture of where I'm at and what of those things had been completely ignored and starting to get a little bit, up on that. So.
Yeah, it's a journey you go through, I think, and you figure these things out as you go through it. I'm curious, what's moved the needle the most for you, do you think, as a business? What's worked really well?
It is so hard to say this because I think it's so not helpful. But the truth is,
I am so curious right now.
The truth is the soft shell line, the food storage line. Okay, it's so funny. You look at it, and we had some real luck in the beginning. But when you look at, like, if you're looking at the growth, you'll see that when the soft shell launched, the game changed. And fortunately, that lifts all the products, right? Because now you have more people coming to the site, you have more people seeing your social and all of that. But the release of that product line really changed so much. But I think the learning in that is that I leaned into it. Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about my daughter's invention all day long. Okay. That's what I want to talk about. I want to post about Market Parker every day. But if you look, I don't. I talk about the soft shell now. Like, this is the one that's compelling. This is the one that's getting you to the website. This is what's making the difference. This is what I'm going to talk about. And I'll sprinkle the others in. But that is what changed the game. And then going, was it the Pareto principle or something about the 80,
Pareto.
80-20. Yeah. I'm not fighting this anymore. Like, I am following that. I am following that. Now you are getting all of my attention. You're getting 80%. You're getting all of that because that is the product that changed the game for the business. Yeah. And now it's working for the other products are lifted as a result.
Yeah. So that's your hero product, isn't it, in many ways? I think it's an interesting one. Listening to you talk about that, and I think it's right that you press into it and you make it work, with your hero product. And I can think on every website that I'm involved with, there is one product, and it follows the 80-20 rule, and it's your hero product. And you have to have it first in the search. You have to have it first on the homepage, and it makes a lot of sense to do that because that's the reason why most people are there, and it does lift your other products.
I also couldn't afford to do meta ads for the other products because the price point is too low of the other products. We try to keep everything accessible, and there's something in this, I think. So the reason we're able to do meta ads for the food containers, for the soft shells, is because people buy multiples. Okay, so like if you look at everything, I have nothing. I don't think there's anything on our website it's $17.99 and under for a single thing. And that's the most expensive thing. It's like we have $5.99. So if you're thinking of that and someone's coming to the website to buy one Build-A-Straw in a little pot, it's like $4.99 or $4.99. I can't advertise. Advertise it. You can post for organic, but you can't advertise on that. But if you think about it, the original soft shell, which is the one that sells the best, it's $14.99 retail on its own. But that I couldn't afford to advertise. So I offer bundles, and they're heavily discounted, and they come with freebies. So people are buying 4 with the stuff. Now that's where I can afford. So I make that so compelling. That's the really compelling offer, my bundles. And now I can afford the ad spend. Now I can afford it. So, and you can see on the data shows me that that's what people are buying. They're buying the multiples. I can afford it. So it's the only one I advertise.
Fantastic. If you want to know more, check out BigBeeLittleBee.com, and you can see the soft shells on there. I'm looking at them now. One's got blueberries in, which is making me slightly hungry. Blueberries is my favorite.
Blueberries, I do my own photography. So any of the product shots, that's a skill that I've learned. I've learned to do my own photography. And it's just a thing I've found that I enjoy. I do try to build in. You're not going to find me easily outsourcing. I mean, I do have some other photographers from time to time, but I do like to find the things that I can spend time on in the business that I truly enjoy. Because my favorite thing is the product development. You can't do that all the time. But I do enjoy the photography. So
they give you these little moments of pleasure.
yeah,
don't they?
I make time for it.
Yeah. And why would you not? I think it's important to do that. Whatever you. But I think the trick is not to get just into that. Like if you just spend all your time on photography, you've got a problem, haven't you?
I've just found at this point in the business, I'm doing so much of the things that I do not get. That creative part of me does not get filled up, right? My e-commerce day to day, and I'm a creative person, and so it's not something that I like go, oh, so I'm going to spend all my time doing the creative. No, I just allow myself those opportunities that are important to do. It's not like something that's not important. Like it's important. Content creation, all that is very important. So I allow myself. But no, these days I am spending most of the time doing stuff that never had any background or never really enjoyed, in a lot of cases really struggled with, but I'm getting better, and it's getting easier. It's getting so much easier, actually.
Well, and also you're reaping the rewards of it now if your business is growing.
Yeah, that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
The day-to-day is a lot easier when it's, the fruits of your labor are showing. It's a little tougher when they're not. So that does help.
It really, I've managed businesses where there's been rapid growth, and I've managed businesses where there's been rapid decline, and it's definitely more fun when there's rapid growth.
Yeah.
Definitely more fun. What's your, you've mentioned the tariffs. Is that the biggest thing you're kind of thinking about at the moment that could maybe derail you? Not completely, but a little bit. Is there something else top of mind?
It's definitely the issue of the day, right? Like, and this will be something I'm working on, but I don't feel that I'll be derailed by it. It changes things. It's, if the margins are going to close a little bit, then it probably means fewer big sales and, maybe turning a few things, but it's not a huge big deal, but it is the thing of the day, and it is the thing we have to plan for. But like a couple weeks ago, the bill for our latest container of inventory was due, and that was the concern of when you're handing over just a huge amount of cash, and you're like, okay, it wasn't a problem. Thankfully, we plan to pay the bill, but it's just, you know what I mean? In that moment, you're like, okay, let's move this and that. So it really just depends when you ask me. Like, there's nothing scaring me right now. Inventory I think will scare me. I don't know that that's going to go away, because each time we order more and more, which means, you're taking like everything you have so you can have even more to sell. So that always stresses me out, but like I've heard that a billion times over, and every time, even if you have pre-sales, it still is like, it feels like such a risk. Like, what if people get over this? Or what if, but I don't feel that there's anything, on the horizon. And especially because I'm not saying people need a soft shell. I'm not saying they like need our scrubbing. Like, there's other, things you can have, but we don't sell stuff that's just purely superfluous. Like, these are things that help your life. They're meant to be convenient, And so it's not just like, oh, it's going to be the first thing people say goodbye to with things. So I'm not overly concerned. I'm definitely going to be some of the things I'm working on, though, right now, that, I don't let this news derail me from the other priorities. Like, I'm setting up a new affiliate program that is still happening right now. That's still happening. My meetings are tomorrow. Like, that's what we're doing. That's not going to change. So the priorities remain the priorities for me. And I think that's something I've learned as well. Like, I don't let other things take my attention anymore. Like, everybody's influx of emails can't be the thing I do first or the most important thing of the day, right? The important thing of the day has to remain that, right? And affiliate marketing is part of my plan for this year. So that's going to happen no matter what I have to do with the news. So
fantastic. Amy, I've got to the stage of the show where I am going to ask you for question for Matt. This is where you give me a question. I'm going to go away and answer it on social media. So what is your question for me?
So I have to, so this is an assumption built in, so correct me if I'm wrong. I assume there was a time then you just perhaps didn't want to do it. It wasn't feeling, did you ever have a moment where you're just like, I don't know if this is it. I don't know if I don't know if I can hack it. I don't know if I can get past this hurdle. Just from there's too much negative happening right then and you're feeling it, right? If you've had that, what got you over it, or what few things got you past it?
Fantastic. I will answer that question over on LinkedIn. If you want to know my answer to the question, come find me at Matt Edmondson on LinkedIn. I think that's probably one of the best questions I've been asked yet, Amy. I'm not going to lie. I think that's a very, very good question. I'm looking forward to answering this one.
I'm looking forward to reading it.
Yeah. I will tag you in the post, no doubt. Now, if people want to reach you, if they want to find out more about what you do, what's the best way to do that?
You can find us through the website. You'll see our social handles. You can find us on Instagram, BigBee_Lilbee, Lilbee. The company is BigBeeLittleBee, like a buzzing bee, but you can find us everywhere. And I really do love talking to community members who are, in the same journey, even no matter what point you're in. So don't hesitate.
Fantastic. Well, we will, of course, link to the website in the show notes, which, if you're just on a podcast app, you can just literally scroll down, as long as it's safe to do so and you're not driving, of course, and just click the link and it will take you through to Amy's site. And, of course, if you sign up to the email, the link will also be in the email. Yes, it will. So check that out as well. Amy, listen, I have totally enjoyed our conversation.
Hey.
One of the things I like to do, I should have told you this before we hit record. I'm really sorry. I just realized I didn't tell you. Everyone's listening. Oh, what did he not say? One of the things I like to do is I have this thing at the end, the sort of last minute or so of the show, called Save the Best Till Last. And so I'm curious, for those that, stay to the end and listen to the end, like to have a little bit of extra value. What's your... what's your top tip? What's one thing that you maybe have not said that you think would be super, super helpful for people out there?
So I'd say don't let the fear of failing publicly stop you from making choices that you need to make. Okay. I've failed publicly. I've succeeded publicly, and pretty much no one's paying attention. You know what I mean? And if they're paying attention for the 0.3 seconds of attention it takes to look at a post. And then you're gone. It may make you not feel good to hear that. I don't know. But people aren't paying as much attention to your choices and your successes and failures as you may think they are. So just do it. If it feels right, just do it. And if it doesn't work out, they only thought about it for 0.3 of a second. So just do it. There's going to be so many choices. There's going to be so many risks you have to take, so many, ventures outside of your comfort zone. No one's watching.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Amy, thank you so much. Loved our conversation. Thank you for coming on. And thank you for listening to the show. Like I say, if you want to know more, head over to ecommercepodcast.net. But a big shout out to the team at PodJunction that put the podcast together. Thanks to Josh Edmondson for writing the theme music, and to all you e-commerce fanboys out there, a bit like me, all you e-commercers, go have some fun with it. Thank you, Amy, for joining us. Everybody else, I will see you next week. That's it from myself. That's it from Amy. Bye for now.